We have a new fusion, so let's talk about it. Hello everybody, I'm Roadblock and this is a Raid Shadow Legends video, and I'm excited because we got something to talk about today. We have a new fusion coming. I looked at the kit briefly, but I didn't do a deep dive in it, and I have not watched any other content creators talk about it yet. I know my video is coming out a day later than everybody else's, but you know, it's just the nature of my recording cycle and the way things work for us. So either way, I wanted to give a quick shout out relative to yesterday's video. So yesterday's video, I called this out for what it was. I think it was necessary. I think it's important that we don't just, you know, roll over and take it when Plarium does something as silly as that. But this is awesome, right? Today's reward, yes, that. Now look, do I want 30 days of primal shards? Yes. Is that gonna happen? No, I'm not asking for that, right? But I do appreciate that they have a really good reward in here like that, and I wanted to compliment them and say, you know, hey, this is a good choice. I'm not saying that, you know, everything in here needs to be as good as a primal shard, but things need to not be as bad as, you know, stuff that has very, very little value to almost any player in the player base, and certainly ones that are completely not valuable. So this was a good one. I applaud you, Plarium. Thank you for giving us a free primal shard. I do appreciate that. I think that's good.
What can I say except you're welcome?
So, also, I would not be surprised if we have 2x on primals in the near future. I've seen some other content creators speculate on that. I have no knowledge of that. I'm not an official content creator. I don't think they have knowledge of that either, to be fair. But I was always under the impression that they would happen every 6 months, but I've seen some people say like 2 months or so now. So we'll see, right? I would love it to be more often. I'd love it to be more frequent. So hopefully we have one coming up, and that would be a nice little gesture to give us one right before we get an opportunity to spend them. So, okay, let's move on to what we're here to talk about in the video today. Real quick, if you're looking to be part of my account takeover series, join the Discord below. But a little heads up, I'll be prioritizing accounts that were started with my exclusive promo link. This will also guarantee you a free legendary Elenaril and 3 amazing free epics as you level up. Here's what you need to do. Log out of Plarium Play on PC and uninstall. Click the link in the description and register with a brand new email. Launch Raid and complete the tutorial. Go to your inbox and claim your first champ. You'll get Elenaril for free along with Uugo, Tagoar, Rector Drath, and a better chance at a takeover. So click my link right now. We are here to talk about the new fusion. I will say that kind of based on the look of the champion, this is my favorite faction looks wise. I've talked about this on stream before, but I am actually a pretty big fan of swords and, you know, Asian culture and samurai, ninja, stuff like that. This is a katana that my wife got me for Christmas or a birthday not that long ago. It is you can't see it, but it's a Damascus blade, which I love Damascus steel. I love the look of it. This is my favorite faction, right? I love those types of swords and things like that. What I will say is that this is a little underwhelming. It just on the surface looks a little bit like Mishinaki's skin, or sorry, it looks like Mishinaki without all the cool stuff, right? Because I think Mishinaki is holding a head, if I remember correctly. Okay, so not quite. I'm a little bit wrong there because Mishinaki only holds it with one hand. He doesn't hold it with two across the body like we have here. So I am a little bit wrong about that, but I don't know. I really like the armor and the more flat. I'm not looking for fire, flames, or anything like super spectacular, but I really like more armor and stuff. So like for me, one of my favorites is actually a rare. I actually love the look of Fenshi. This is one of my favorite aesthetically looking characters. I love the fire on the katanas, and I just really like him as a champion. As you know, the kit is decent in early game, but you know, overall this is kind of the style and look that I like in the game. It's not like, don't get me wrong, like my favorite champions are probably not in that faction. Like Cardiel has been my favorite for a very, very long time, but either way, this is a little underwhelming for me. It feels a little bland. I'd like to see maybe a helmet, cool mask, something along those lines. You know, I'm just giving my opinions here. It doesn't mean that you guys don't have to agree with me. I just overall wanted to give my opinion on the look of it. Okay, let's talk about kit. So we'll start with the A1. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit transfers a random debuff from this champion to the target. If this champion is under any debuffs when attacked, counterattacks with this skill. So immediately when I hear of this ability, the first thing I think of is Supreme Elhain, and this was never an ability that I'm excited about. I was going to say that this might be a good counter to removing the fear from Fabian, perhaps. Like, I'm trying to think outside the box here, but I think that because you took a turn, you would still activate the Fabian's counterattack mechanic and get petrified. So probably still not a way around that mechanic. So the each hit transfers a random debuff from this champion to the target has always been one that's a little underwhelming from past experiences. Now, maybe they do something different with this kit as a whole. Maybe they do something different with the multipliers, or maybe there's some content coming out that this is going to really thrive in. But for the most part, I don't find a lot of value in that ability. The counterattack part of it, I will say that I think having built-in counterattacks is valuable. I think this will trigger a lot potentially too, depending on where you're using the champion, but I don't really know where you're trying to maintain debuffs, right? Most of the time you're looking to bring a cleanser to get rid of debuffs. So I don't know, maybe there's some potential here, but I think it's a pretty weak overall on the A1. Okay, now let's move on to the A2. Attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of placing a fear debuff, 25% decrease crit damage debuff, and a 30% decrease crit rate debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. These debuffs cannot be resisted by enemies who are already under 2 or more debuffs. So what I will say is I love when you have the ability on a nuker that brings debuffs to be able to place unresistible debuff. Like, I want to talk about the good first. The downside, I don't know where I care about this. So the decreased crit rate and decreased crit damage, I understand the concepts there, but to be completely honest, I don't know that it's going to have the kind of impact. And quite frankly, I feel like that ends up getting cleansed off anyways. I've always felt decreased crit rate was more of a PvE skill. I know that sounds weird to say, but I've always felt that way. I could be wrong about that, by the way, but I felt that way because you can eliminate certain bosses' ability, well, actually all bosses maybe, ability to do critical damage to your team, which can prove very, very powerful if you're, running a team that just rides that line of survivability. So I don't view this ability to be particularly good. It is a 3-turn cooldown AoE hit. The fear part is interesting, and to be able to place an unresistible fear. But here's where I have a little bit of a problem with it. So overall, the expectation of this kit is that of a nuker, in my opinion. So I'm looking to eliminate the enemy team with this ability. So why do I really care if I can also place fear or reduce their damage or their crit rate when I would rather just take them out? If you're thinking like, okay, well, what if you ran him as a debuffer instead of a nuker? Well, then I just wouldn't bring them. I get better debuffs from other champions, like decreased defense, weaken, decreased speed, turn meter reduction, things like that. Fear is pretty good, especially with the addition of Fabian, but Fabian is also the one that's going to be placing the fear a lot of the time. So I don't know that there's a lot of value in being able to place an irresistible fear. And really quickly, because I just remembered, I want to put a huge caveat, because to me, this is a nuker, and I could be wrong about that. If the multipliers are I reserve the right to my final opinion if the multipliers are very, very good, right? If we have insane multipliers, then okay, yeah, of course the champion is one to go for. But the last time I banked on Plarium giving us good multipliers, I wasn't quite correct. So I don't want to bank on that, and I'm gonna assume that these multipliers will not be good than to assume that this guy will hit like Terras, right? So yeah, that's pretty much what I think on it. But I do love it when they put in irresistible debuffs. I just want them to be a little bit more useful than what I would normally expect in like Arena, for example. All right, let's move on to the A3 now. This book's down to a 3-turn cooldown as well. Attacks one enemy, will ignore 25% of the target's defense. Will ignore 50% of the target's defense instead if the target is under 2 or more debuff. Places a block damage buff on this champion for 2 turns if this attack kills an enemy. I like this ability a lot, actually, right? So this is going to be your big single target, right? If you think about a lot of different champions in the game, a lot of them tend to have a very hard hard-hitting single target nuke ability that will take out a champion, right? Problem with this is we don't have anything like ignoring block damage. We don't have ignoring unkillable, strengthen, ally protect, stone skin, things that are prevalent in today's meta. You would need pretty insane multipliers to be able to take somebody out with stone skin without having it in the kit. It can ignore stone skin. It's hard to be sure how good this will hit, but what I do want to give credit to is that this has the ability to ignore 50% of the target's defense. Why is that important? Well, if you think that you running them in Savage, for example, that is a 25% ignore defense. So combined with this, if they are under 2 or more debuffs, you're now up to 75%. And this is assuming there's no decreased defense on the champion. Then if you run Helm Smasher, you have a 50% chance of ignoring another 25% defense, which gives you the ability to potentially hit 100% defense ignore, or what is referred to as true damage, right? I love any time you have opportunity to do true damage. However, this all revolves around really good multipliers and whether or not we have them. But at the end of the day, we don't have any way of really doing damage through stone skin and other things. Now, that's not to say that a champion will be bad, right? If we think about Thor, for example, is the first one that comes to mind. Even Thor, right? Even Thor has some of that unkillable, ignoring block damage, ignoring unkillable, right? That's a pretty big deal. Plus, like, this subsequent hit can really stack pretty good. And we even have self-buffing. Like, there's more to Thor's kit as a nuker than what I'm currently seeing in the kit here. Like, it feels a little bit bland. Now, I do think that they can potentially ignore more than what we ignore on Thor, if anything. So yeah, Thor just does a ton of damage, but doesn't have built-in ignore defense. That usually allows them to give a little bit more damage to the base of the ability, where in my experience, when they have champions that have built-in ignore defense, they take that into consideration with the multipliers, right? So you still may not get really massive heavy hit that you're looking to get, but again, all comes down to those multipliers, and I hope that I'm wrong. I hope this guy smacks, but all revolves around those multipliers. All right, lastly, for the passive, whenever an enemy resists a debuff placed by this champion, the next debuff placed by this champion cannot be resisted. Each debuff placed by this champion increases their max HP by 3%, stacks up to 30%. Now, we talked about this with Lysanther Beastbane. I love the ability to stack your base stat over the course of a fight. So that could prove to be pretty good when you think about it, getting up 30% more HP, right? If this guy has 100,000 HP, you're going to get 30,000 HP on top of that. That can allow you to do a lot more damage. So there is potential if you look at the upside of the kit. Okay, so I do think because we can place irresistible debuffs and we even have this built-in passive, you will get this relatively quickly because it's each debuff. So each time 6%, so 5 turns that you'll be able to have this fully stacked up. You're not going to get 5 turns, generally speaking, in PvP, but for other areas of the game, maybe this is sneaky good, right? Maybe if, again, I hate keep saying if the multiplier, but that's just what it is, right? That's the big issue with nukers, is that at the end of the day, they could have the coolest looking kit in the world, but if their multipliers stink, I'm not going to want the champion, right? So, and I didn't talk about this that much. I've made hints and alluded to it a little bit. It is an HP based nuker. So the first question that comes to mind for me is, who is this champion for? I think this is a champion that probably leans more towards new player. So if you're asking yourself, is this a champion that I should go for? Again, I would like to believe that they won't give this guy such garbage multipliers that it's not worthwhile. So I would say at worst, we're looking at EP level PvP nuker. I would say something maybe like Magmar level, just off the top of my head, and I'm only saying that because they're 2 HP based nukers. But what I have learned to be kind of difficult on a free-to-play account, I've gotten Magnars early, and I've had difficulty really building out an HP-based nuker, and that could just been the luck of the draw on my gear, but I want to make sure that I say that if you are a new player and you're considering this as a fusion that you want to go for, I want to just make sure I add that tidbit in that I have had difficulty building HP-based nukers, and they are further difficult to build because there is no increase HP buff. There's increased attack, there's increased damage, there's no increased HP buff that you can get from your allies. Now, he has a cool way of getting 30% more, but there's no way to add to that in the game currently as it stands. So that can be difficult to get the kind of level of damage that you want out of your team, especially if the multipliers aren't great. So I would say if you have the resources for a fusion, if you didn't get Alice for whatever reason, you don't have Wukong, if you're looking for your PvP arena nuker that's going to upgrade over your starter champion or an epic, this might be the answer for you. But I think for most mid to late game players, this is probably going to be a skip. There's not anything unique enough here about Kit that I feel it's worthwhile when you think of other good HP based nukers that we have had offered to us in the game. Now, if this guy comes out and we see some test server footage and the multipliers are insane, they're the hardest hitting multipliers of an HP based nuker since, whatever, then I think there is going to be some really good value there. But on the surface, I don't see enough in this kit as it stands right now for me to go for on either of my accounts. And to be fair, like when it comes to HP nukers on my free to play, I have Narcissus. I'm a little spoiled over there when it comes to HP nukers. It doesn't get me excited about one. And then on my main account, I just don't see where this guy really fits in for me, to be completely honest. I just want to make sure that I'm honest with you guys. That is my pure opinion, that I don't see too much in the way of that kit that it's gonna be impressive enough for me to say, okay, cool, I'm gonna take my already somewhat depleted account and try to do another fusion on either of my accounts. So I think this is probably one where I can skip and hold my breath for maybe something a little bit better. But again, your account will be different, guys, so please consider that when you're listening to my rambling here, because this could be a really good champion for you if you just have not yet gotten that really good nuker for you in arena. This might be able to fill that role. I will say though, the other thing to keep in mind is going to be that there's a lot of nukers in this game. There's a possibility that you might pull a better epic, you might pull a Genbo or something along those lines that could potentially hit harder than this guy. We don't know. I'm not saying he will hit harder, but just things to consider. There may be a better investment than this champion. So either way, guys, that's my opinion. Hope you guys enjoyed that video, and if you are new here, please consider subscribing. It is the best way to support my channel. We are 100 at the time of this recording. We are 100 viewers away from 5,000. I feel like I've been talking about this forever. I am very excited to be even closer than I was before, so please consider subscribing. I really want to hit 5,000. It's been a goal of mine for quite some time. Either way though, I will say thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care.